In the winter of 1875, Rosa Jimenez, 21, discovered that her father considered her a burden, a mere financial liability, unworthy of love or acceptance in the rugged expanse of the Colorado Territory. The biting cold wrapped around her threadbare garments like an unwelcome embrace as she stood beneath the jagged peaks, her heart a hollow cavity echoing with shame and sorrow. It was no longer the winter chill that pricked at her skin, but the seeping dread of her father's anger, flaring up like the sharp crack of icicles falling from the eaves of their homestead. What use is a daughter who cannot marry? Tomas's voice, laden with disappointment, pierced the thick, frigid air, reverberating off the barn's wooden walls and leaving only silence in its wake. The townsfolk needed alliances, not outcasts. Behind him, a shadow flickered in the sunlight, a man from town, resplendent in his polished boots, who would eagerly take her father's offer to sell her to the highest bidder. A transaction instead of a union. She felt like the cattle he sold, unceremoniously discussed and evaluated for their worth to others. "No suitor will take you without a proper price," he continued, his words like iron bars locking her in a cage. Her soul trapped behind the cruel deformity on her face, the birthmark that had defined her existence since the day she was born. "I should have let you stay a simple servant, rather than make me suffer the embarrassment of having you as my kin." Tears pricked at her eyes as she pressed her palms against the rough wood of the barn. The metallic scent of the horse's sweat mixed with the bitter odor of hay, but all she could taste was humiliation as the shame seeped into her very being. Every word from Tomas felt like a whip against her skin. Every breath she took heavy with the heaviness of rejection. She was not simply Rosa. She was that freak of a daughter, a creature whose existence brought only scorn to her family. The biting wind carried the whispers of unseen neighbors drifting into her mind. Look at her. What a shame. A sigh escaped her lips, mingling with the swirling snowflakes falling outside. In the silence, she could hear the straining creaks of their cabin and the rattling of old shutters, each sound a reminder of how shackled she felt. With each humiliation piled upon her, something inside Rosa began to shift. One day she'd had enough. Fatigue swept over her like a heavy shroud until it became unbearable. Her heart began to stir with the embers of rebellion, an awakening she could no longer ignore. She waited for nightfall, hoping the shadows would conceal her as she slipped away while her father drank heavily at the tavern, lost in the laughter of men whose ignorance had never been hers to carry. Beneath the cover of darkness, Rosa fled into the wilderness, the crunch of snow beneath her worn boots a chaotic symphony to accompany her heart's erratic rhythm. She couldn't fathom where she would go or what awaited her, but the mountains called like a siren song, promising a freedom her father's home had long denied her. Their imposing heights beckoned her, and as she ascended into the embrace of the woods, she felt a flicker of determination ignite within. "Perhaps the mountains will offer me a chance," she mused, as the trees loomed above her like guardians. Ice clung to the branches, glistening in the moonlight, a world lit by silver and shadows. She yearned for the comfort of her dreams, where she wasn't just Rosa the freak, but simply Rosa. Her legs aching from the treacherous climb, she pressed forward until her spirit matched the resolve hidden deep within her. As dawn approached, the chill of early morning air filled her lungs, invigorating yet starkly cold. The sun began to rise, painting the sky amber, while the frost clung stubbornly to the last remnants of night, glimmering like a multitude of tiny stars. The wilderness was alive and expansive, a place where she could breathe freely without the weight of her father's judgment, hanging like dark clouds in the sky. Little did she know, her flight was merely the start of a destiny far beyond her wildest dreams. It was then, amidst the isolation she so desired, that she stumbled upon Alejandro Martinez, a rugged mountain man who had long retreated from civilization after losing the love of his life, leaving a wound that festered in silence. Alejandro, 35, found solace wrapped in the arms of these towering giants, their unyielding presence a reminder of both the grief he bore and the beauty of existence. His heart, marked by loss, had shaped him into a man of complexity and depth, a solace seeker who treasured the wilderness instead of fearing its solitude. As Rosa approached a clearing, she caught sight of him, a solitary figure with sun-kissed skin, hinting at labor under the open sky, his hair tousled by the wind as he diligently worked to gather firewood. With broad shoulders, he moved with the grace of someone well acquainted with the mountain life, exuding strength and resilience that resonated within her. For the first time, Rosa felt a sense of safety unfurl within her. Yet skepticism shadowed her heart. Could such kindness be real? Torn between fear and hope, she stepped cautiously into the clearing, her heart racing like a caged bird eager to take flight. The moment Alejandro lifted his gaze, an unexpected warmth flashed in his eyes, illuminating the dark recesses of her soul. "What brings you into this wild?" he asked, his voice low and smooth like a soft lullaby. He stood, his stature almost imposing, yet his demeanor unthreatening, inviting rather than repelling. I ran away," she faltered, glancing down at her hands, closed tight as if to protect the fragile heart hidden there. "I cannot go back." "That is wise," he nodded, sensing the gravity of sorrow entwined in her words. His presence enveloped her like a thick cloak, offering her a respite from the harsh realities of life. "Come. You can stay here, where every living thing is free. The trees, the wind, the skies. You belong here." With trepidation, Rosa stepped forward, letting her guard down slightly as she moved closer. The past clung to her like a shadow, but with each breath of the cool, fresh air, she felt the weight of her father's words beginning to loosen their grip. Alejandro's acceptance stirred something deep within, crafting an ember of hope that bloomed stubbornly against the winter chill. Rosa, once a marginalized daughter cloaked in shame, had crossed the threshold into a sanctuary where harsh judgments dissipated, making way for an alliance with a man who saw her not as a burden, but as a soul deserving of honor and respect. As they stood amidst the sprawling beauty of the wilderness, an unspoken connection formed between them, the landscape echoing their heart's desires, a promise of healing set against the unforgiving backdrop of nature. In that moment, amidst the towering peaks and whispering winds, Rosa's journey to reclaim her spirit had begun, ushered in by the kindness of a stranger who understood the scars of loss all too well. "Hello, my dear friend. This is Jasper Ashwood, your narrator of Mountain Tales. Before we start, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below telling me where you're tuning in from. A big hug to you all, and I hope you enjoy the story." As Rosa stood enveloped in new possibilities, Alejandro would shelter her, while together they began to write their own chapters in the unyielding embrace of the mountains, an adventure waiting, where acceptance and love would carve anew the story of their lives against the canvas of the Colorado Territory. The sun hung low over the rugged peaks of the Colorado Territory, casting golden hues of light across the landscape as it rose higher in the sky. Rosa found herself in the woods, alongside Alejandro, both emboldened by the growing sunlight and the thrill of a fresh start. Deep in the embrace of nature, she breathed in the rich scents of pine and earth, her spirit gradually beginning to unfurl like the early buds of spring. "Let me show you how to make a fire," Alejandro said, his voice steady and calm, guiding her deeper into her newfound sanctuary. He knelt beside a cluster of dry wood, methodically arranging it in a teepee shape. She watched in silence, captivated by the clear way he moved, each movement purposeful, every action a step towards their mutual survival. "It's not just about warmth, it brings life." She imitated his motions, her fingers trembling with uncertainty as she brought together fallen twigs and branches. Quietly watching him, she absorbed each gesture as if studying a revered text. Alejandro glanced at her and smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling with warmth. "You'll find your way. Just like the fire, we need to learn how to tend to our own inside." As the fire flickered to life, a golden glow spilled around them, casting fleeting shadows that danced in the soft light. Rosa admired the way the flames licked at the kindling, their hungry advance a beautiful chaos, a stark contrast to the rigid and cruel structure she had known back home. This fire was alive, vibrant, and full of possibilities. "Why did you come here?" she asked, hesitating before the question escaped her lips, wanting to delve into the depths of his solitude. "Not many choose this life." Alejandro took a moment to respond, his gaze lingering on the fire. "I lost my wife," he finally admitted, each word heavy with the burden of unhealed grief. "We tried to fight against the odds, but sometimes nature takes its course, no matter how desperately we want to hold on." Rosa felt a pang in her heart at the sincerity in his voice, the sorrow ringing true to her own experiences of loss and rejection. "I understand that feeling," she murmured quietly, the connection between them solidifying through their shared pain. "I've spent too long trying to make myself fit into a world that refused to accept me." It was as if a dam had burst within her, all the unacknowledged hurt pooling into the open air, crystallizing between them. The fire crackled, the wood popping as their floundering trust began to spark. For days that followed, they explored the mountains together, brushing against the wild beauty of the terrain. Rosa learning to forage for plants and berries, Alejandro teaching her the ways of survival. She started to uncover talents long buried beneath layers of self-doubt, realizing she could contribute to their shared life. In here, Alejandro pointed to a bush laden with deep red berries, the vibrant colors a feast for the eyes. These are huckleberries, sweet, perfect for breakfast. Rosa knelt beside him, carefully collecting the small fruits, enjoying the way the sharp, tangy sweetness burst upon her tongue. It wasn't just survival they were seeking. It felt like she was reclaiming pieces of herself that had been lost for years. And with each passing day, Rosa cultivated a confidence that felt foreign, yet exhilarating. Her laughter, once silenced by mockery, now returned in rich measures, mingling easily with Alejandro's deep chuckles. They spent evenings by the fire sharing stories, where the vulnerabilities that had once bounded them now wove a tapestry of encouragement, a bond strengthened by mutual respect. One golden evening, she ventured into the small cabin where Alejandro had invited her to stay. The humble abode sat nestled between the towering trees, worn but welcoming. Inside, the wooden beams bore the marks of time, the scent of dried herbs hanging from the ceiling a fragrant reminder of his solitary labor. "Make yourself at home," he said softly, settling down on a small stool as he expertly whittled a piece of wood, displaying a familiar ease in the act, fingers deftly carving shapes from the natural materials around them. "Whatever you need, it is yours." "This feels—" she started, her voice carrying a tremor as she struggled to articulate the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. "This feels like home." A shadow crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with a smile. "Home is what we make it, Rosa. It's not the walls that define it, but the heart within." As days turned into weeks, that notion of home evolved into a tangible reality. Rosa immersed herself in a new way of life, each pulse of her newfound existence resonating with bated breath against the tranquility of the mountains. One night, as they sat beneath a crisp, starlit sky, Rosa noticed the way the moonlight fell across Alejandro's features, revealing the rugged handsomeness countered with the touch of desolation in his eyes. She felt a swell of something deeper, a yearning for connection beyond friendship. He met her gaze, and something electric spurred between them, igniting a flame she never anticipated. I never expected to find someone like you," he admitted, breaking the tension that hummed between them. "You are." He hesitated, unsure how to encapsulate the whirlpool of emotions within him. "You are remarkable, resilient. You face the world without flinching. You inspire me to see beauty again." His words pierced her heart deeply. "And you," she began, her voice low, "you've shown me kindness I thought would never exist." "You're not a burden," he said firmly, his eyes locked with hers. "You're an invaluable companion, someone I never expected to find." As the moon climbed higher, illuminating the wooden beams of the cabin, they shared their first gentle touch, a mere brush of fingers against each other's skin, but one pregnant with promise. Days blurred into a surreal rhythm forged in laughter, vulnerability, and hope. In this small slice of the wilderness, they stood together flanked by nature's fierce beauty, supported by a bond anchored in mutual healing. Their connection knit closer despite the chaos they had both fled, and something sacred blossomed between them. Yet, as the days grew warmer, a tangible shift coursed through the landscape, a change heralding the return of tension, a harbinger of the adversity that had cast shadows over Rosa's past. One fateful afternoon, just as the wild lilacs began to bloom, she caught sight of familiar figures on the horizon, a procession that ignited the deepest fear buried within her. "Rosa!" The voice was unmistakable. Tomas, flanked by townsfolk, stormed through the woods like a violent storm descending upon the quiet peace she had forged. Heart racing, she stumbled back, colliding with Alejandro, who instantly filled the space beside her, protective instinct engulfing him. "I can't go back! I cannot face him!" Rosa shouted, panic rising in her chest as their figures approached, her world surging with dread. "Stay by me," Alejandro commanded, unwavering, his strength anchoring her. "You are safe here." Tomas's furious face pierced through the growing shadows, filled with indignation. "You think you can run forever?" he bellowed, a blend of pain and anger weaving through his voice. "You belong to me, to our family. You're nothing without us." The woods fell silent, an oppressive weight hanging in the air as the townsfolk gathered, their eyes wide, uncertainty mixing with judgment, just as they had so many times before. Rosa met Alejandro's gaze, filled with determination, a wordless vow exchanged between them. She was not alone. "Rosa," Alejandro said with a firm grip on her shoulder, "you have come this far. You can face him." At that moment, understanding ignited deep within her heart. She was not the weak little girl her father still saw. She had become strong, fortified by the love and trust Alejandro had shown her. The shame that colored her existence for so long began to peel away, revealing the strength that had always been there, the fierce spirit that would not submit. As Tomas stepped closer, rage and desperation painting his features, Rosa drew a deep breath, her voice firm and unwavering. "No, I will no longer be your burden. I am not your possession. I choose my own path." The wind whistled through the trees, drowning out the disbelief on her father's face, the townsfolk watching with a mix of astonishment and confusion. Tomas faltered, a reverberation of rejection flashing across his features. But before he could respond, Alejandro stepped in front of Rosa, fierce and unyielding. "She is a woman of strength, Tomas. You cannot take her from here. She is where she belongs." The tension built to a precipice as Rosa stood shoulder to shoulder with Alejandro, unwavering, giving life to the strength she had discovered among the wilds. An unfurling of defiance ignited the air, heralding a new beginning. This was Rosa's moment not just to defy her past, but to claim her future, standing tall against the weight of oppression that had sought to crush her spirit. In that charged atmosphere of courage and conviction, surrounded by the embrace of the mountains that had become their sanctuary, Rosa prepared to confront her father and the gang that had long kept her tethered to shame. For the first time, she was ready to reclaim her identity, no longer defined by the cruelty she had endured, but by the strength imbued within her heart. And so, an unspoken truth began to emerge, rippling through the forest and echoing in the depths of their shared life. A story of resilience woven into the fabric of existence, underscored by the beauty of acceptance and the power derived from love. Together, they would rise against the tide, forging a path illuminated by the fierce glow of truth. Rosa stood resolute, her heart pounding ferociously in her chest as the air crackled with tension. Tomas's eyes narrowed, his expression a mask of disbelief mixed with indignation. "You think you can just abandon your family and leave? You're my daughter. You are nothing without us." His voice rose in pitch, clawing at the edges of control as the crowd behind him shifted uneasily. "Yes, I am your daughter," Rosa replied, each word gaining strength. "But I am no longer your possession, nor your burden. You've tried to mold me into something I'm not, and I will not stand silent any longer." The sound of her own voice, steadier than she ever felt, seemed to wrap around her like a protective cloak, offering an unexpected courage. Behind her, Alejandro mirrored her determination, his face firm yet compassionate, an unwavering anchor when her past threatened to drown her. "Listen to her, Tomas," Alejandro added, his voice calm, but filled with an underlying current of fury. "You have cast her aside, treated her like she is less than a person. You've shamed her for too long. Rosa found her way to me because she chose to embrace who she is, and you cannot take that from her." At that moment, something shifted in the townsfolk's expressions, straying from shock to an awkward mingling of sympathy and unexpected support. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd, whispers like, "She's right, you know," and "We've all seen how they treated her." Faces that had once turned away began to look at Rosa more closely, seeing her for the woman she had become rather than the label her father had imparted. Tomas's fists clenched at his sides, his face flushed with a mixture of outrage and dawning realization. "You will regret this. You are throwing away your family, your opportunities." He recoiled, fully exposing the raw wound of rejection that he had inflicted upon Rosa all these years. "No, father," she replied, her voice ringing with unwavering fortitude. "You sacrificed my spirit for your pride and social acceptance. You cannot claim a future for me that is built on the shards of my own brokenness." The townsfolk shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, the weight of guilt palpable as they began to recognize their own complicity in Rosa's suffering. They had watched her endure too much shame, too much ridicule. In the blistering glare of her father's anger, they found an unexpected solidarity with Rosa, a shimmer of courage igniting an awareness of their responsibility to embrace the truth. "Rosa, you're making a mistake," Tomas pleaded, desperation pouring from every word. The world is cruel and unkind. You need family. I need respect, she interrupted, fierceness igniting her voice anew. I need to be seen as whole and capable, not broken. The mountains have taught me that strength comes from within, not from those who hold us down. With each passing moment, she felt the heaviness of doubt lift, replaced by a blazing truth of self-acceptance that felt as vast and boundless as the mountains that surrounded them. Tomas stepped back, his countenance faltering as the reality of public perception began tearing at the fabric of his stubbornness. The townsfolk, witnessing the transformation shared between father and daughter, felt the shift in Rosa's words, each declaration unlocking the chains that had bound them all. As if a dam had broken, the townsfolk moved closer, their voices rising in support. Rosa deserves better. We've all seen the way you treat her. This ends now. Rosa watched as support surged like a tide, gathering them all beneath a banner of acceptance and kinship. The assembly united in their acknowledgement that wrongs must be righted. With each declaration from them, Rosa felt emboldened, her spirit flaring in response. I will build my life free from the fear you imposed on me. I will forge alliances with love and grow in a world that values me for who I truly am. And by standing here, I choose to share my journey with those who wish to be part of it. The call for change roared through the crowd, igniting an electric atmosphere of solidarity that began to envelop Rosa, lifting her up as the weight of expectation crumbled. For the first time, Tomas felt like more than just an authority figure. He was a reflection of the conflict contained within each persona of control, wrestling with the realization that power derived from the wounds he had inflicted upon Rosa. Rosa's heart raced, the environment sizzling with potential, the transformation blossoming as she looked on at the townsfolk. Let's rise together and reclaim our identities in the shadows of these mountains. I will no longer be defined by socio-economic status or the judgments of my past. We are all capable of growth. We all deserve a chance at happiness. In the midst of her impassioned speech, she caught Alejandro's gaze, and a spark ignited between them, fueling her determination further. The reality that had once held her captive began to dissipate, a dense fog lifting beneath the sunlight of their collective awareness. She felt the power of community envelop her, becoming woven into the fabric of resilience where each thread contributed to the strength of their unity. Tomas, stripped of authority and pride, lowered his gaze, the knot of helplessness tightening in his stomach. It was insufferable, the way his daughter stood unfaltering, vibrant with a force he had sought to extinguish. With the townsfolk against him, he slowly began to comprehend the echo of his failures, fighting against winds that whispered truths he could no longer deny. Rosa, you may not consider me important anymore, but I am still your father, Tomas pleaded, but the panic in his voice only solidified Rosa's resolve. Father, she stepped close enough for him to hear her clearly. You are right, you are my father. But it is time for you to recognize me as a woman of my own, a person deserving of respect. You see, I have journeyed into the wilderness and discovered who I am beneath the layers of shame. The crowd shifted again, eyes wide in astonishment as they began to connect this confrontation with their own experiences of familial expectations. Perhaps everyone had a part of their life where they felt trapped by perceptions laid upon them. In falling silent, they were beginning to reshape their understanding of acceptance. Your voice has been silenced for too long, Alejandro added, stepping forward to support her once more. You are here now, standing tall in your truth. Do not let fear dictate what you deserve. His words echoed in the air, fueling the unity that coursed through the gathering. Do you truly think I want to see you broken? He turned toward Tomas. She deserves to bloom as she was meant to, not stifled in the shadows of your expectations. The weight of historical injustices and the fearlessness in Rosa's heart continued to forge a new narrative. This is not just about family, it's about community. We can all choose to uplift one another instead of tearing each other down. It's never too late to change our path. Tomas's expression softened as he gazed at Rosa, witnessing the woman his daughter had become. Inside, the chaos of conflicting emotions flooded him. Having raised a daughter he believed was a responsibility, only to discover he had cast away a bright spirit yearning for acceptance and love. At that moment, he felt a shift within himself, a recognition of the pain he inflicted, not just upon Rosa, but upon the community writ large. I didn't, he began, but faltered under the weight of his guilt, glancing from the townsfolk back to Rosa. I didn't see it. I didn't realize how deep my actions cut. You have the chance to change that today, Alejandro told him. Not just for Rosa, but for all of us. You have the opportunity to stand with her now, to be a part of this moment instead of the stranglehold that prevents it. The pain etched on Tomas's face began to reflect the deep-rooted shame transforming into resolve. He was one among many people who had perpetuated a cycle rooted in fear and misunderstanding, one that could be revolutionized into something beautiful. As he heard the murmurs of understanding and forgiveness growing louder, he lifted his head to meet Rosa's gaze, searching for validation. Can you forgive me? Rosa hesitated for just a heartbeat, weighed down by the memories of past struggles, but recognizing her power in this transformative moment. It's not just forgiveness I seek, Father. It's understanding, transformation, and acceptance. If we have any hope of healing, we need more than just words. We need courage. Murmurs echoed through the crowd, an added layer of support resonating with truth. Each neighbor began voicing the pain they'd witnessed, the silent suffering they had lived under during those same difficult years. The narrative began shifting, compelling them to confront their own discomfort and anger that propagated in silence. Together, Rosa amplified, lifting her voice into the breeze, weaving the fabric of their narrative into one of hope. We will foster a community where we lift each other, instead of tearing ourselves down. Together we can create a future that values resilience, beauty, and authenticity. And just like that, the crowd surged, morphed into a wave of acceptance, shimmering like sunlight breaking through clouds. Neighbors began stepping forward, echoing Rosa's mission, sharing their own stories of oppression, and rising to be examples of what was truly possible. "Rosa, you give us courage," one child called out, clutching a wildflower in her hands. "I want to be brave like you." "I want to feel free too," another added, a fire sparking in their heart. As these voices chimed together, Rosa lifted her chin high, fortified by the knowledge she wasn't alone. The world had been cruel to them, and today was not only Rosa's journey, it was the community's as well. With every step collectively taken, the past began spiraling outward. Leyendas, rumors of failure that had suffocated their potential, began to fade into the valley. The mountains remained steadfast, silent witnesses to their evolution. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, shading the horizon with golden light, a new beginning emerged, one where Rosa could define her existence, not just as a daughter, but as a woman. "Let's rise together and reclaim our identities against the shadows," she declared, each word ringing like a bell of clarity. "Let us honor ourselves, every flaw, every scar, as proof of our strength, acknowledging our right to love as we see fit." A chorus of agreement rippled through the crowd, each person willing to confront their past to foster a stronger future together. In their eyes, Rosa felt mirrors of resilience reflecting the courage she had finally chosen for herself. In that moment, her past became her foundation, not a prison. By undoing the knots intertwined among them, they were no longer bound by shame. They were writing the next chapter of their lives, echoed amidst the towering mountains that would serve as both guardian and witness to their stories. Powerful tales retold through the heartbeats of those who dared to break free. The early evening light wrapped around them, embracing the connections forged under the boughs of empathy and understanding with the spirit of love, reinforcing the hope illuminated by their newfound allegiances. Each breath they took felt lighter, the weight of shame slowly dissipating. No longer was there a weight to bear, only the luminous path forged ahead. And as Rosa stood amongst her newfound family, her heart soared with the knowledge that she, along with Alejandro and her community, stood ready to embrace the future, a journey marked by love, acceptance, and the beauty of living authentically. Their shared laughter echoed through the air while around them, the mountains rallied, standing vigilant in support as they stepped forward, brave and unbroken into the next chapter of their lives. As the vibrant colors of dusk tumbled over the mountains, bathing the valley in a soft embrace, Rosa felt an electricity crackling through the air, a sense of new beginnings and unshackled potential. The sense of community was palpable. For the first time in many years, they were not just survivors of circumstance, but architects of their own destinies. In the days following Rosa's brave stand, the town began to transform as whispers of hope swirled around every corner. Neighbors who had once cast wary eyes upon her were now opening their doors, inviting her into their homes and lives. The warmth of acceptance blossomed like wildflowers across the mountainside, and as the sun rose each morning, Rosa felt gratitude pour into her heart, readying her to meet the day ahead with fierce determination. Walking towards the communal center one morning, Rosa caught the glimmer of the dew-kissed grass beneath her feet. The rocky path to her new life felt solid, supporting her progress. The word had spread, and the town hall soon filled with people from all walks of life, some familiar faces, others who had joined in solidarity to advocate for change and acceptance. Inside, the air buzzed with excitement, vibrant and alive. Friends gathered to share ideas. Some brought freshly baked goods, filling the space with the smell of cinnamon and sugar. The atmosphere was bright and inviting, a stark contrast to the coldness that had once dominated town gatherings. Standing at the head of the room, Rosa could see many familiar faces, people she had known since childhood, who had watched and endured her suffering, and now were ready to stand with her. Slowly and intentionally, she felt Alejandro's presence beside her, his reassuring strength offering balance as they prepared to unveil a plan that would elevate their mission beyond mere words. "Thank you all for coming," Rosa began, her voice full of hope, steady but imbued with heartfelt emotion. "Today is an opportunity for us to unite, to breathe life into our shared dreams, and fight for a community that values each of us without prejudice. What we build here will resonate beyond our homes. It will show others that love and acceptance break down even the harshest walls." As she spoke, her heart surged with pride. The energy in the room was contagious. She could see heads nodding, a wave of agreement washing over the crowd. "I believe it's time for us to reclaim our narratives. No more hiding in the shadows of shame. We can create a community that celebrates our differences, one that stands strong against discrimination and oppression." A ripple of applause broke out, echoing off the wooden beams of the hall. The fight for acceptance was no longer Rosa's journey alone. It had become a shared mission, born out of collective suffering and hope. Rosa elaborated on her vision for a community council that would empower voices previously silenced and ensure that all inhabitants had a chance to live freely and authentically. She proposed regular gatherings designed to celebrate their cultures, exchange ideas for communal projects, and highlight the contributions of all members, regardless of their pasts or backgrounds. Her passionate words ignited sparks of enthusiasm, and as the discussions unfolded, a collective resolve bloomed. People began stepping forward, offering their own insights, sharing their experiences, and suggesting initiatives that would help fortify the community's foundation. "Let's set up a harvest festival," one voice boomed excitedly from the back. "It could be a celebration of our bounty, an opportunity to bring us all together so we can highlight not just our differences, but our shared love for this land." "Yes, we could have storytelling nights," another offered, barely able to contain her excitement. "We can share our journeys through art and music. I can bring my guitar." Rosa's heart swelled as the ideas flowed. The room crackled with thriving energy, reflecting the spark igniting within each person, a determination to forge a new way forward. Amidst the voices, Rosa heard Alejandro's steady support. "We should form partnerships with neighboring towns. Let us build relationships beyond our borders. Together we can expand our reach and connect with others who share our journey." As they gathered around in small circles, weaving together plans for the council, the excitement transformed into action. Groups of people began outlining roles based on their talents. A few organized committees for events, while others formulated ways to offer resources for those affected by discrimination. The meeting continued with renewed vigor, ideas swirling, each exchange a thread weaving their collective story into a vibrant tapestry of hope. When it finally wrapped, Rosa felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration that warmed her from within. They had begun unthreading the entrenched biases that had long festered and woven new connections promising to transform the landscape of their town. Days turned into weeks, and the momentum propelled them into an exciting transformation. The council formalized their plans and began rallying support for the Harvest Festival. They would host it in the heart of the town, a celebration that would echo their message of unity far and wide. The excitement in the air was infectious, and with each passing day, Rosa saw glimpses of the community coming together, supporting each other in ways that felt profoundly healing. The day arrived, and the sun hung tenderly in the sky, casting a golden glow over the land. Rosa stood at the entrance as townsfolk began to gather, the air filled with laughter, excitement, and the scent of delicious food wafting through the air. Vibrant banners strung between trees danced in the gentle breeze, each one bearing messages of acceptance, resilience, and love. Everywhere her gaze rested, the once divided townspeople mingled, their shared stories intertwining in a rich tapestry, while children raced around, their laughter ringing like melody. The community was a living example of the harmony that could exist in differences. an echo affirming their newfound appreciation for one another. Rosa moved through the crowd, absorbing the vibrancy around her, feeling the undeniable sense of community, spirit growing ever more palpable. She spotted Alejandra, a young girl who had once been too shy to speak, but now dashed around with a confidence that made Rosa's heart swell. Alejandra grabbed Rosa's hand and pulled her into the middle of a circle of children playing games, her laughter lighting up the atmosphere. "Come on, Rosa, we need you!" the little girl exclaimed, her face flushed with exuberance. As Rosa joined in the games, she spotted Tomás lingering at the edge of the celebration, his eyes scanning the joy unfolding before him. Mother Nature surrounded them in lush splendor, but she could see the remnants of uncertainty beneath his stoic demeanor. It was a stark reminder that healing would not happen overnight, but faith in their shared journey could slowly transform even the heaviest hearts. Rosa took a breath, a burst of courage bubbling up within her. It was time to bridge the gap, to encourage change beyond her own journey. As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm embrace on the gathering, she approached Tomás. "Father," she began, her voice steady yet seeking understanding. "I see you watching. This is a celebration not just of our community, but of the opportunity we all have to grow." His face softened ever so slightly, the vulnerability in his eyes betraying the strength he had once wielded like a weapon. "Rosa, Please don't deny it," she interrupted gently. "I know that change is hard, especially when one has been set in their ways for so long. But being here, witnessing this transformation, it means everything to me. It means everything to all of us." Tomás looked away briefly, the conflict playing out on his face. "I didn't realize how much my actions hurt you all." He let his voice tremble as he added, "Watching from the sidelines, I can see the joy you've created where there was once only pain." "Then join us," she implored, her voice firm yet encouraging. "This is the moment for healing, not isolation. We can embrace our past while looking forward to something better, together." Rosa felt the air shift as Tomás took a small step into the circle of celebration. "I want to be involved," he said, his voice lowest among the laughter. "Will you allow me?" "Yes, always," Rosa answered, the warmth in her heart blooming at the sight of her father reconnecting with the softening current of acceptance swirling around them. As they shared a brief nod, a bridge formed between them, a link of understanding beginning to mend the wounds of a painful past. The laughter and music around them thundered louder, an affirmation of hope rippling through the community, echoing off the sturdy mountains that provided shelter to their stories. The sun dipped lower in the sky, melting into shades of crimson and gold, bestowing a final gift for what felt like a worthy conclusion to a chapter filled with shadows. As people joined together for the harvest feast, each dish shared carried the essence of their heritage: rice and beans, spicy stews, sweet pastries, and laughter. Joyful banter filled the night as stories weaved their way back and forth, creating a shared history never to be forgotten. Rosa stood amongst her newfound family, the colorful patchwork of life sewn tightly around her heart. Acceptance wrapped her in a warm embrace, filling her with the certainty that they were no longer mere survivors navigating a troubled existence. They were a community rebuilt, grounded in love and firm in their commitment to growth. As laughter burst from each corner of the gathering, revealing glimpses of resilience, Rosa felt the shift take hold. The darkness once tethered to them like a weight breached the surface, giving way to the light illuminating their shared experience. Amidst the jubilant noise and celebration, Rosa and Alejandro shared a moment of stillness, their hearts synchronized in understanding. "This is just the beginning," he whispered, his voice barely above a hush amid the melody. Looking out over the scene unfolding around her, the dawning acceptance of their past, the determination to embrace their future, Rosa nodded with fervor. "Yes, together we will reshape our community and honor those who came before us. Love will guide us forward, and through this connection, we will teach others that not only can we overcome, but we can thrive." As twilight began to blanket the gathering in deep colors, the stars began to twinkle above, sizing this moment, an embodiment of hope set against the beautiful tapestry of unity that Rosa had worked fervently to create. Amongst the laughter and celebrations illuminating the dark, she understood that true change began not just in the heart, but spread to every corner of their lives. With the festival at its peak, Rosa climbed onto a small stage, its makeshift structure adorned with flowers from the gardens nearby. She raised her hands high, and silence fell over the crowd, hushed anticipation lingering in the air. I see before me a vibrant tapestry, Rosa began, her voice unwavering, resonating with gratitude. Today, we honor every voice, every story woven into the fabric of this community. We embrace the laughter that reminds us of our joy, the tears that speak to our past, and the strength that unites us moving forward. The crowd applauded, their cheers of support surging through the night like a warm heartbeat, igniting an exhilarating sense of freedom in the midst of acknowledgement. Today is a celebration of acceptance, a day to remind us that we are stronger together, she continued, her voice rising above the rustling leaves. Let us continue striving for a world where acceptance prevails and love conquers fear. Here, in this sacred place, we can cultivate love, honor each other, and continue embracing those steps toward change. At her words, the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, the poignant echo amplifying their shared resolve. As the day transformed into night, the stars began to twinkle above, an embodiment of hope set against the beautiful tapestry of unity that Rosa had worked fervently to create. Amongst the laughter and celebrations illuminating the dark, she understood that true change began not just in the heart, but spread to every corner of their lives. And as the music began to play, the townspeople joined together, their voices melding into a harmonious chorus that danced into the night, a melody of hope that would carry forward, lighting a path for future generations, a legacy of resilience. In that moment, Rosa knew they had finally broken free from the chains of their past and were ready to step boldly into the promise of a brighter tomorrow. As the night deepened and the stars burst into life above the festival, a gentle breeze ruffled the edges of banners that fluttered like whispers of encouragement. Rosa felt a profound sense of belonging envelop her, a precious reminder of how far she had come and the community they had built together. Yet amidst the elation, a flicker of unease darkened the edges of her joy. The confrontation with her father, Tomas, replayed in her mind, a delicate thread weaving through the tapestry of their present. Although healing had begun, there lingered an understanding that not all was resolved. The shadows of their past were still present, threatening to dampen the progress they had made. As she moved through the crowd, exchanging smiles and warm embraces with her neighbors, that unease grew into a gnawing tension. Tomas had taken a step forward, yes, but the severity of his past actions weighed heavily in the air, and Rosa sensed unspoken questions hanging around him. Were the townspeople willing to forgive him after all he had done? Could he truly change? She knew what she felt, but the community had its wounds, and healing required more than mere sentiment. Gathering her thoughts, she approached Alejandro, who was talking animatedly with a group of children. He caught Rosa's eye, an understanding passing between them. "What's on your mind?" he asked, gently laying a hand on her arm. "I feel the weight of everything, Alejandro. Today was beautiful, but I can't shake the feeling that we still have barriers to breach." She gestured subtly toward her father, standing on the outskirts of the festivities, his face both hopeful and apprehensive. "Change takes time, Rosa. You've laid the foundation for a remarkable shift in this town, and your father is part of that journey too," Alejandro replied, his voice calm and steady. "Healing can be messy, but you must remind them that embracing change doesn't erase the past. It allows them to move forward." Rosa mulled over Alejandro's words, feeling the truth resonate within her. Gathering her courage, she decided it was time to address the hidden fears imperiling their progress. "You're right," she began, her stomach fluttering with determination. "Maybe it's time for me to speak again, to share my experience with everyone watching." He nodded, a spark of pride lighting his eyes. "Then let's give them a moment to hear your story. You've inspired them already, Rosa. It's time they heard even more." Taking a deep breath, Rosa stepped back onto the makeshift stage, her heart racing as the crowd grew quiet once more beneath the weight of her resolve. The emotions flickering across the faces below her mingled hope, excitement, and a flicker of apprehension. "I have more to say," she addressed the gathering, confidence guiding her voice. "I stand before you not just as a daughter or a sister, but as a voice for everyone who has felt ignored, silenced, or unloved. For too long, fear dictated our lives, and in recovering my voice, I've learned the power of vulnerability and connection." Rosa saw people lean in closer, their expressions shifting in recognition. "I've lived the consequences of choices made in the past. My father's refusal to see me for who I truly am, the way I let shame dictate my worth, and how hate pushed us into oblivion. It was not just my struggle, it was ours, as a family and a community. The tension in the air thickened as Rosa continued, the fervor of her passion weaving together the stories around her. But today is about more than my past. It's about the healing we find when we embrace each other's stories. Each of us carries a share of responsibility to rise above those stories that have kept us apart. Our lives are intertwined. A murmur of agreement and encouragement rippled through the crowd as she met Tomas's gaze. He wore a mixture of emotions, remorse and readiness, but deep in his eyes lay something new, the flicker of hope. Change is not linear. It ebbs and flows like the tide against the shore. But with each step we take, we chip away at the barriers that division has raised. Rosa felt the intensity of the world around her shift in response to her words, the air alive with purpose. She continued, "Forgiveness is a catalyst for freedom, but it requires us to take responsibility for our actions. If we can turn our intentions into accountability, we can become part of something much larger, something beautiful." Her voice crescendoed, drawing in the energy enveloping them all. "I learned the hard way that my worth is not defined by doubts or criticisms. It is rooted in resilience. I found strength in vulnerability when I learned to simply reach out in trust. Together we can lift each other, not only the ones we love, but every person in our circle." As she finished speaking, Rosa closed her eyes, allowing the moment to wash over her, an all-encompassing gift of courage that reshaped the rhythm of her heart. Cheers erupted from the crowd, but amidst the applause, she heard gasps and murmurs from Tomas as well. "I want to join you, Rosa. Please, let me be part of this journey, part of your healing." Tomas's voice boomed, filled with raw sincerity. He stepped forward, the shadows of regret trailing behind him. "I recognize my failures. I acknowledge the pain I've caused, and I vow to stand with you in this fight to inspire change. Let me be present in ways I failed before." Rosa's breath caught in her throat, but she felt the swell of hope rushing through her. Could it be possible? Just beyond the heavy armor of his past actions, could she glimpse the man he sought to be? She took a hesitant step closer to him. "Father, do you truly understand what this means? That it isn't simply about words but actions? You cannot move forward without accepting responsibility for your past." "I do, my daughter," he exclaimed, eyes pleading. "All I can do is promise you that I will seek to mend my past mistakes and work toward becoming a better man, a better father to you." The crowd shifted, taking in the profound moment unfolding before them. This could become a pivotal turning point, not just for Rosa but for Tomas and the whole community. They had a choice to make, a path to forge. The evening air shifted again, crackling with burgeoning energy, a sense of something new ready to blossom. Without hesitation, a woman from the crowd stepped forward. "Tomas, many of us have watched, unwittingly complicit in the suffering all around us. I stand here, ready to seek healing as well if you truly commit to changing." "That's right," echoed the voices around them. "We are willing to embrace our part. Together, we can stand side by side." A wave of support filled the air, cascading over the crowd as a tide of intention rose, reinforcing the bonds that had once felt fractured. Rosa felt the pulse of solidarity strong within her, recognizing that the journey to healing was both individual and collective. The beauty of their stories intertwined. Their shared struggles gave birth to strength and resilience in a community that had long been fragile at the seams. "I understand there will be challenges ahead," Tomas spoke again, his voice real and resolute. "But let me be a part of the chapter you all are writing. Let's forge new paths together. I want to change and to learn. Please allow me to join this journey." With a deep breath, Rosa nodded slowly, feeling the spark of unity illuminate the encroaching darkness of doubt. Here, in this moment of collective resolution, there was a chance to draw strength from their vulnerabilities. "Then let's move forward, together." As the sun dipped further beneath the horizon, painting skies anew, the community erupted into renewed applause, an affirmation of commitment binding them all. With each cheer, they resonated with purpose, exuding a powerful declaration that they would not only accept change but embrace it, even as their beginnings were steeped in struggle. Tonight, they had witnessed the tipping point, the fragile rebirth of not just one family, but many. And as laughter filled the air, weaving through the night once more, Rosa realized that true healing meant leaving behind the burdens of the past while forging toward the hope of tomorrow. The journey wouldn't be easy, but together they stood in the light of resilience, determined to break beyond the barriers, ensuring that the promise of change illuminated their path in the days to come. As the applause echoed through the night, Swirling amidst the soft melodies of the festival, Rosa stood grounded in the resolve that had formed among them. It felt as if the community was breathing a new life into existence, one filled with hope and compassion where shadows had once dominated. In the days that followed, inspired by the spirit of unity, Rosa and Alejandro organized a series of workshops designed to facilitate open dialogue and foster understanding. They invited everyone, neighbors, friends, even former opponents, to come together and share both their struggles and victories, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences that could fortify their community. Communication is key, Rosa declared during one of the first gatherings, her voice ringing with determination. We can't heal if we don't express our thoughts honestly. It's time to speak our truths, even the difficult ones. With each workshop, the community began to open up. People shared stories of hardships, losses, and the loneliness that had lingered in their hearts. For Tomas, stepping forward to share his past mistakes was challenging, yet cathartic. I've caused pain, he confessed, voice trembling. But I want to learn how to be better, not just for myself but for all of you. His vulnerability sparked a ripple effect throughout the room. People began to respond, sharing how they too struggled with regrets and the desire for redemption. Each story became a thread. They weren't just individual tales, but rather a communal fabric of resilience and healing. Over time, Rosa noticed changes manifesting beyond the workshops. Neighbors who had previously ignored one another were now offering support, sharing meals, and collaborating on local projects. There was laughter amidst the bricks and mortar of their world, with friendships budding in the most unexpected places. One evening, as the sun set, bathing the square in a golden hue, Rosa felt an anticipation stirring in the air. The town gathered to celebrate their progress with a community festival, an event dedicated to honoring their past while embracing their shared future. I want to reflect on how far we've come, she spoke to the crowd, feeling energy pulsating around her. This gathering symbolizes our commitment to move forward together. Let's face our pasts and acknowledge the strength rising from our collective spirit. Encouraged by a chorus of agreement, Rosa knew that they had truly begun to break free from the chains that held them. But amidst this joy, uncertainty still floated at the edges, the understanding that their journey was ongoing and they needed to remain vigilant and dedicated. As the festival commenced, the sweet scent of food filled the air, laughter mingled with music, and under the stars, the village exuded a spirit of hope. People danced and shared stories, and the warmth of camaraderie embraced them all. Then, Maria, an elder who had long been a fixture in the village, stepped forward to speak. I want to acknowledge the courage we've all shown. In my lifetime, I have seen how fear can hold us captive. But today, I see not just brave individuals, but a courageous community ready to embrace change. Rosa felt a swell of gratitude at the moment. All her efforts had breathed life into the town's spirit. One voice turned into many as everyone joined in, expressing their commitment to supporting one another through thick and thin. As the night matured, the community enjoyed games, and laughter erupted like sunshine breaking through clouds. With joy radiating through the festival, Rosa realized that healing was not simply about forgetting the past, but honorably acknowledging it, transforming their shared struggles into a collective strength. At the end of the evening, she took a step back, allowing the joy of the moment to wash over her. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of their shared journey into a hopeful future, bolstered by the bonds they had formed. With everyone united in laughter and celebration, Rosa smiled to herself, knowing that together they could illuminate even the darkest paths. The weight of their shared burdens was lifting, replaced by a collective resilience that would guide them well beyond this festival and into the lives they would continue to forge. As the moon glowed overhead, Rosa felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had reclaimed their lives, collectively binding their narratives into a living testament of change. And in that moment under the stars, she understood more clearly than ever. This was merely a stepping stone toward an even brighter tomorrow. Together they had become a beacon of hope, ready to embrace all that lay ahead.